and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is going to be a tag video which was created by Isaac's Reviews. Isaac's Reviews is a brand new channel that is affiliated with a contributor to Geek Legion of Doom who does reviews for this channel. So I'm very pleased to be able to do a tag video for Isaac. Now, Isaac is a big superhero fan along with other kind of like genre-based movies. He's a very intimidating young man, you know, very intense, but he has a love of superheroes. So go and check him out, go and subscribe. Of course, I will leave a link in the channel in the description box below. And if anyone wants to do this tag, please feel free. It's kind of superhero based, and I know most of my subscribers are more horror based maybe, but there are, I do superhero stuff, so feel free to check them out. I'm going to tag a couple of people at the end who I think may be interested, but if you want to do it, just go ahead. Just make sure you get credit. Good old Isaac, if you do this 7-question tag. So let's get on with it. If you were a superhero, who would you be and why? Okay, so with these questions, I'm probably going to take this more seriously and more thoughtful than maybe other people, because that's just how I am. I would have to think, okay, what would be the kind of the benefits and stuff. So one of my favourite superheroes is Spider-Man, but he's always kind of poor. He's always kind of like getting the short end of the stick. So although I like the character, I don't know if I want to be Spider-Man, to be honest, because he has such a plethora of issues. And I know you picked Hulk, but I don't know if I'd want to be kind of like an out of control rage machine. So for me, it would have to be someone who is in control, who doesn't have a whole plethora of kind of like personal stuff or tragedy that they've had in their lives. So for me, I'm going to pick Captain Britain. Of course, well, I'm British, and yeah, I'd like to represent. So Captain Britain, his name's Brian Braddock. He's gone through a few different kind of iterations throughout the years, but he's pretty powerful. I know he seems derivative of Captain America, but you know, he can fly, he's got super strength and stuff like that. He's a kind of a wealthy dude. He's married to a mutant called Megan, I believe. I don't know if that's still the case, but it's been a while since I've read it. He was an alcoholic at one point, but you know, whatever. You know, can't be perfect. But he seems to have a his life's relatively kind of normal in regards to put together. There are not too many kind of like personal demons outside of the kind of the alcoholism. And he's got a cool costume, some pretty badass powers, and doesn't seem to have too much kind of tragedy in his life, at least what I've read. He goes on some very weird adventures, which would be quite fun. So that would be my pick. That would be Captain Britain, and of course, British. So there you go. Number 2. If I were a supervillain, who would I be and why? Oof, here's a tough one. And again, the same thing applies. I wouldn't want to have someone who has been, you know, had a lot of bad stuff happen to them. Dr. Doom has got his face all scarred up. He's pretty powerful. You know, the Joker, same thing on the kind of the Joker or something like that. You know, who had a lot of kind of bad stuff happen to them throughout their lives. So it would kind of be, it's a difficult one to say, to be honest with you, because you know, there's a lot of these guys who, because they're obviously bad guys, have had some kind of some bad stuff going through them, really. Now I'd probably go with probably Venom, if I'm honest. Probably well, they say that he's had cancer, so no, maybe I won't. Let me scratch that one. Choose the Purple Man. So the Purple Man is just a kind of a regular guy, but he has the ability to mind control anyone who he wants within a kind of certain distance to him. So you can basically get whatever you like. You know, you can kind of, if you want someone to give you a bunch of money from a bank, you can do it. That anyone can be getting hurt or anything like that. So admittedly you are purple. So yes, you are the colour purple, but I'm colourblind anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, number 3. If I could have any superpower, what would it be? The easy one to pick, I think, is flight. But told you I'd think too much about this. I'd actually go with a powerful telekinesis. which is the ability to move things with your mind. And why I say that is because you can essentially mimic other powers. With flight, unless you have kind of like super endurance, stuff like that, when you're travelling very fast, it's going to kind of be a little bit painful and problematic. But if you are able to kind of levitate yourself, you can kind of simulate flight, you can kind of pick things up, so to kind of like mimic strength and stuff like that. I think Superboy is pretty much got this. That's kind of like, so he mimics Superman's powers, but it's actually got telekinesis ultimately. So that'd be my pick. Number 4. Do you prefer superheroes or supervillains? I would say probably superheroes, if I'm honest. I kind of, you know, when I was young, I started to read comics when I was very young, probably about your age, Isaac. And I used to enjoy, back then we didn't have the internet or even much TV. So comics were kind of what I would read to get kind of like stories about people doing incredible things for selfless reasons, you know. And one of my favourite was Spider-Man, because he had similar kind of personal problems to pretty much every kind of like teenage boy that you've got out there. But he'd always he had a good strength of character, and that's what I liked. So I would go with the superhero, because it's a case of doing the right thing, and I feel like I have a pretty good moral compass. Do I prefer Marvel or DC, and why? I prefer Marvel. I always have, and I've kind of touched on it before. So with Marvel, I just feel their characters have a little bit more humanity to them. And now Stan Lee, who created a lot of the kind of the classic characters, it's one of his key things that he wanted to make a point of difference making. So in the 60s and stuff, when he was making these characters, he would make them with personal problems. So he would make them more human. So with DC, it's always you've got gods, you know, you've got Superman, Wonder Woman, you've got these godlike characters who are just, you know, they're not really kind of you or me. But with Marvel, the majority of characters are just regular people who have had an extraordinary circumstance which has made them superpowered or what have you. So, and that's what the key to me was the characters just seemed, you know, a little bit more relatable, a little bit more grounded than DC. And I did like some DC stuff, but to me, it was all, I've always been a much bigger Marvel fan. Now, who is your favourite DC character and why? I'm actually going to say 3 characters, to be honest with you, because I'm greedy. The easy option, I think, is Batman, but I think everyone will pretty much say that on the majority of people, because he's one of the most layered characters. I feel he's one of the most psychologically kind of in-depth characters. So yeah, and he looks cool. He's got lots of cool stuff going on, and he's also not overpowered, which is the problem with a lot of the DC characters. My second pick would be Bane. Now, Bane is a bad guy, and he's probably one of my favourite villains, actually, although he spent a long time in prison, which is why I didn't want to pick him as who I want to be. But he's like, he looks really cool. I love his mask. You know, he's like very intelligent, but he's very strong. A lot of the times when you get the very kind of strong, physically strong characters, they tend to be dumb. But unlike the movie, you know, well, I suppose you said it in the Dark Knight Rises, but Bane is physically strong, but also very smart. So I like the fact that, you know, that he's not a typical, you know, strong character who is dumb, which tends to be a lot of the time that's the case. My last pick of DC would be Power Girl, and I like her because of well, there's lots of reasons why I like Power Girl. Anyway, who is my favourite Marvel character and why? Now again, I'm going to pick 3 because my real answer is Spider-Man, but it just seems so obvious to me. I love Spider-Man because, like I've mentioned before, I just find him a very kind of relatable character in his kind of personal life. But I'm gonna touch on a couple of other ones that may be less known. The next one is one called Man-Thing. Now, Man-Thing is actually more of a horror character, so you can see, because I do a lot of kind of horror reviews here, and he's ultimately a huge swamp monster. Now, he's pretty scary looking, and they have actually made a film. He does actually have a real film that's out, but it was kind of pretty much been forgotten about. And he's like this huge swamp monster that kind of burns people if they're afraid of him and stuff like that. And he looks really cool. And I used to really like the comics back in there when I was your age. And then the last one is a character that is very kind of obscure, called Death's Head. Now he was actually made by a British writer, and he actually originally appeared in the Transformers comics. So once upon a time, Marvel did Transformers comics, basically. And again, this was before we had like the internet and stuff like that, so they used to use comics for a way to kind of make people know about certain things. So this was how Transformers started, along with the kind of the cartoon show. So in the UK, comics came out weekly. In America, they came out monthly. So what the UK used to do was have extra stories. And when they used to come out, so they used to have these British stories, and in that they introduced a character called Death's Head, who was basically like a bounty hunter, but a big robot. Now he was very popular in the Transformers comic, and then they kind of they kind of took him out and they reduced his size through a kind of an adventure with Doctor Who, believe it or not, in a Doctor Who comic, and made him kind of human size because he was like a big Transformer size. And from there, he's had a variety of different kind of adventures and stuff like that. And you know, he's fought the Fantastic Four and She-Hulk in his own kind of comic series. Because he's British in origin, he doesn't pop up that much in American comics. But I think he looks really cool. He's quite funny. He's got this kind of sort of speech impediments, and he's just a really cool character. They kind of rebooted him a couple of times, which I don't like as much. But yeah, he's probably one of my favourite. He doesn't have a lot of comics, so there's not that much to kind of read from him, if that makes sense. So that's my long-winded answer to your question, Isaac. Please go and check out Isaac's channel. He's probably bored of watching this video now because I've waffled on about too much. I'm going to take a couple of people, but anyone who wants to do this tag, please feel free. People who I think may be interested are going to be Blu-Ray Benn and Cinematic 77, Pop Culture Deathmatch, who I definitely know likes superheroes, and Screenstars, who is another one of our kind of regular contributors here at the channel. So please check out Isaac's channel, do the tag if you feel like it, and there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.